former President Donald Trump. Now, there's a lot to be said about the former president, but today is a big day, and it's by no exception that he decided to go live with his new social media platform, Truth Social. Yes, folks, the president has decided that he wanted to take communications into his own hands, creating a platform that is similar to what you might see on Twitter or some of these other mainstream platforms. Now, this comes as a result of the president being banned from other platforms such as Twitter and Facebook as a result of what happened with the January 6th insurrection. And so now with this new platform, Truth Social, it allows the president to put out his communication unfiltered in a way that he can get to his followers and supporters. Now, according to the reports now this Truth Social went live today on the Apple network, and they were greeted by a message. Like when you go on there and you sign up for Truth Social, you're going to get a welcome message to register for the service. As of today, there are about 150,000 people that have been a part of the wait list for the sign up process. And it's a way that many people are saying is a way for the former president to try to, quote unquote, muscle his way back into the social media space, especially after that disastrous, you remember this disastrous kind of attempt, like he was put off of Twitter and then he was kind of putting out information via these statements. So anything that, that he found to be interesting, he would put out a statement, and then the statement would go viral, and he would, have his followers and surrogates put it out there. But the problem was it never really caught fire like the way his words caught fire on those mainstream platforms, particularly Twitter. And so now with this new Truth Social, the president is looking to get back into the conversation. Now, last week, Donald Trump's son, Donald Jr., tweeted something made the first post on the social platform. He said, quote, "Get ready. I can't say, I'm sorry. He said, your favorite president will see you soon." Posts on the platform are going to be referred to as truths. And while applications of a post are known as retruths. Okay, I want to bring in my culture crew member, Reverend Eric P. Lee. He is a pastor, community organizer. He's been doing this great work for years, and we're happy to have him a part of the culture crew. Brother Eric, thank you so much, sir. How are you this afternoon?
Doing well, Farajii. How are you doing, brother?
I'm good. I'm speaking my truth.
As you know it. As you perceive it. Okay.
Now, look, I'm not going to do that. Here's the thing. This is why I wanted us to have this conversation about this platform, because it is a fascinating story. Fascinating story. And when I was, one of my producers said, we were like, oh, we're going to try to get some folks to come on and talk about it. Like, people still see Donald Trump being the polarizing figure that he is, don't want to give him more legitimacy or should give him any more shine or spotlight on anything that he does. But for me, as much as I understand the sentiment, for me, it's still important that we keep our eye on this former president. What's your take of him creating this platform?
Well, I mean, from reality TV star to, corporate thief to presidency, he has to remain in the limelight. And, it's all about his ego. And that comes out of his own personal insecurities about whether he's successful or not. And so, the bigger concern for me is that most of his supporters, he doesn't even represent, and he really doesn't care about. And so, we talking about the blind leading the blind. We're just in a time period where our country is grasping for I would say, a personality that is inciting the deep emotions of, of privilege and racism all at one time.
Yeah. Yeah, and that is my that is one of my big concerns. I mean, look, I study communications. I've that was what I studied in college. That's the work that I do, and I understand the dynamics and the power of the spoken word, the typed word. I understand the power of all of this, which is why I don't think we can just quote unquote overlook this situation, just because when you have a place where you can dictate the narrative, dictate the agenda in any type of communication fashion, that still allows you to have a seat at the table, quote unquote, right? That still gives you power because you have the power to influence. You have the power to tell the stories that you want to tell, and most importantly, to put out any type of view that you want people to have. And it's also a place where people can come to you. Like, they don't have to wait on whether this outlet is going to report or this outlet is going to report. They could hear it directly from you. So I think that's one. These are just some of the big reasons why I think that this part of the discussion needs to be had, because you're determining the power of the communication. And if 70 million people voted for you, and even though that number has dropped significantly since the election, but people are still intrigued and are interested in what you have to say.
Well, yeah, I mean, here's the thing. There's an old adage that, no publicity is bad publicity. So
Right.
He's going to get publicity one way or another. And I think by disrupting mainstream media or disrupting conventional media or ways of thinking, is his tool, his opportunity to make sure that the cameras are always going to be on him, and that
Right.
his voice is always going to be heard. And the downside of that is, I think you want to ignore him and not give credit to what he's saying, because as long as we pay attention to what he's saying, then he's empowered.
Right.
If we pay attention to the craziness of this man, then he is empowered to continue doing what he's doing. And we are actually affirming what he's doing by paying attention to him. And so I think that.
But here's the thing, though, brother. Look, we all know that he has his sights set on running for office in 2024. So he is already coming into the race as a former president. So he was able to galvanize his base. Two, he already has kind of muscled his way to the top of the GOP agenda in terms of dictating what the agenda will be for the GOP. Three, you coming with a communications platform that probably no other candidate will in the Republican Party will have. They will have to rely on traditional and even traditional media and social media.
Right.
So you're coming into the conversation with a lot more. And I'm just saying, speaking as a candidate, you're coming into the situation with a lot of pluses on your side. And you really do have the power to say yes or no. You have the power to say, look, I'm going to be the Republican nominee. Everybody else needs to sit down. You have the power to say, if somebody comes oppose me in any fashion, I'll just blast your ass. Put you on my social media.
Yeah, he's shoring up his base. He's going to make sure that there are lines of communication to his base, because as social media shut him down across the board, his priority was to get back in touch with his people and shore up his base. He is coming with a significant, maybe 30 to 35% intact base for his next presidential run. Without question.
So what does a candidate, what do other Republican candidates, not that I'm just wondering just now, just thinking about it outside, just saying, okay, so what does a Republican candidate that may be in agreement with Donald Trump or may not be in agreement, how do they handle that?
Well, we may, in another segment of the culture, we talked about whether or not there's, a third party capability, particularly for liberal Black folks or progressive Black folks, progressive people altogether. And this may be the movement towards a third political party. I mean, you have the Green Party, you have the Independents, but in terms of the numbers of people that legitimizes the political party and its opportunity to run for president, this might be the beginning of a party if the Republican Party, the GOP, break away from Trumpism. See, Trumpism is becoming a party unto itself,
right?
And what does it do? Adam Kissinger, I think he's retiring. Him and Liz Cheney, those two Republicans, they could actually be the spark for reviving the grand old party, which Black folks used to be a part of.
Right.
But reviving that and having the Trumpism as a separate party unto itself.
I think you might be onto something. And that is something that they have been trying to avoid. They have always, and I'm saying they as the Republicans, have always kind of, kept their ranks tight. Whereas for the Democrats, we know there are so many different factions, from progressives to moderate to conservatives and all of those different things. But you might be on a situation, Eric, where they might be breaking into factions or trying to break off much quicker than what we see with the Democratic Party. Absolutely. And if you are part of the Trump party versus the Republican Party, then now you got a whole new situation. I want to bring in our other culture crew member, B Fly, Black woman film producer and co-owner and co-founder of Blackwater Production House. B Fly, thank you so much for checking in, sis. We appreciate that.
Thanks for having me, Farajii. How you feel today?
We're good. B, when you think about this, you study communications. You know the power of it, right?
I do.
You got this man starting his own platform. Did you just take a breath, B?
I did, Farajii. I did. Because shouldn't we all start our own platforms?
Right.
Shouldn't we all? It's possible. The technology is available to both you and I. We don't have to just be Geminis to activate the technology, So Donald Trump, he kind of plays into his privilege as a politician, his privilege as a TV personality, a privilege as a Gemini zodiac sign. Most Gemini zodiac signs we know are pushing boundaries that the average person would rather them not push.
Are we talking about Trump or Kanye?
I mean, the line is kind of blurry. The line is blurry. And I, as the rapper, I, as the woman who's married to a Gemini and who has given birth to a Gemini.
Wow.
I just have to, just make space for the one that seems to be garnering lots of attention, that seems to be controlling the narrative as a communication great should. All right. So we all know how love and hate operate in our society today. You can on social media say how much I love life and get 2 likes. But as soon as you say, oh my God, I want to die, then everyone is swarming. So the Donald Trump effect, it kind of shows more about us than it does him. He's just doing what he and his counterparts do. Just rev us up, throw in something in the pot that we're not comfortable with, and then we go emotional. But at the end of the day, it's politics. At the end of the day, he does represent white male racist privilege.
Well, you know what,
So
and I think it's an interesting point that you made, B, in terms of us looking at this situation, and you kind of jokingly said, well, shouldn't we all kind of create our own platforms to communicate, like to tell our story and to speak our narrative and our truth? And I'm wondering, Brother Eric, is that one of the things that we can possibly take from this situation? And when we're looking at President Trump saying, hey, wait a minute, if he has the wherewithal, the resources, BC, of course, the privilege, but if he's talking about creating this, and I mean, we have apps, and we're here on the Black Star Network.
Right.
We're on apps like Fanbase and in other spaces. But does this affirm, or rather, does this strengthen the argument, Brother Eric, that we need to create our own platforms? I mean, we got a Black-owned media with Black Star Network, but we need to do more of that because we're not going to be heard as a result of being a part of these traditional platforms?
Well, we have them, as you stated. And I think what we need to do is to support what we have. That has to be first and fundamental. And that has been one of the challenges that we as a people have faced since the time of desegregation and integration, so-called integration, where we stopped supporting Black-owned institutions because now we had the opportunity to support what we were traditionally denied, opportunity to access. And so first and foremost, let's support our own. And then as we do that, then I think we can launch into others. I mean, and it doesn't preclude us from having to being able to launch other platforms. But I'd like to see us as a nation of people, as Black folks, to fully support what we already have. And to B-Fly's point, Donald Trump, anytime someone gets you to react, then they control the narrative. And he is throwing things out there that causes people to react. And once you react to him, he's in control. And that's what I got from what B-Fly was saying, because at first I'm thinking, well, does he really control the narrative, or is he disrupting the narrative? But anytime we react to what he says, he is now in control.
Absolutely.
There have been a number. Go ahead, B.
When it comes to media, it's not like Donald Trump is giving any of us a call. He's not coming into our personal social media platforms and having a conversation with us. No, he's paying media. Like this is still capitalism. This is still big business. Radio, TV, film is the anchor of American capitalistic sales. And so Donald Trump is embedded into this system, and so whether we are quote unquote fans of his work, every time we click on a post, every time we actually go 10 seconds and let this narrative play, we are participating, and we are raising the funds, whether we like it or not, So I would like to know which social media platforms do we actually own, and where are we supposed to be funneling our resources,
Absolutely.
I know that there's Fanbase, but is there another one, or are there droves that I'm just not aware of because I'm a drone as well, only looking at the main core,
Right. And I think, there have been a number of reports, B and Eric, about the fact that this platform, since it went live today on Apple, that it's been riddled with error messages and outages and all types of technical issues. Now, Devin Nunes, who is the former Republican congressman who actually quit being a congressman to become the CEO of the company, the CEO of this media company, said last week that the Truth Social expects to be, quote unquote, fully operational by the end of March, when, quote, anyone can get on the platform within the United States at any time. So we're going to see, and I know that they're going to try to enlist, their engineers and their designers and all of those folks. I think we're really going to see Truth Social as being the communication center for Donald Trump's reelection campaign for 2024. I truly believe that.
Yeah.
And what I also think is going to happen as we kind of look at this situation, the same way that President Barack Obama had revolutionized how to campaign when he first ran in 2008, in terms of small contributions and donations, in terms of the door-to-door strategies and all of those things. Like, he had this grassroots, this national grassroots level strategy. I potentially see the same thing possibly happen, how Donald Trump is reimagining how to run in 2024 with just hosting this platform. Again, nobody else has a platform that they can call their own to say, hey, this is my platform, this is my stuff. And so I think that's going to be the other part of this, is how the Republican Party is going to respond to this, how they're going to handle. You have this man that is such a major figure in the party. You don't want to ostracize him because you know he got the power to take you down in some way. But then at the same time, you don't want to welcome him in because he's soiling what the party is trying to do. And so it puts this party in a big conundrum, a very, very big conundrum, to the point where they're going to try to figure, I don't know what they're going to do, how they're going to respond. You know what I mean? But we've never seen a presidential candidate that has this type of, I mean, like I said, Barack reimagined campaigning, but I think Trump reimagined communications for that side. I might be totally wrong, and I'm cool if I'm wrong, but this could potentially be a game changer, Eric and B.
It is, and I'm looking forward to it. This is. Are we not? Are we not looking forward to the political Hunger Games of our lives? This is amazing. I'm set. Like, I can't find my phone. I want to download this app.
Right.
I need to be a part of this movement. I can't just sit on the sideline. I need to see this. No, because understand, all right, let's table politics, and let's table the Republican, Democrat, Black, white, rich, poor, ism, blah, right? We have an issue when it comes to social media and being policed. We do have an issue with this. Who are the powers that be that dictate shadow banning, that dictate the way we see and receive information? Who are these people? So something, yes, has to happen in order to counteract something that is heading down a destructive path. Okay, and so we need to be able to push on how the truth is disseminated, who dictates what that truth is, and we need to keep a watch. We need to be keeping a watch on our enemy. So if I'm hoping all three of us within the next 24 hours have accounts within this platform, so we're not just spectating while our enemies are actually gathering. Right. I would like to know the difference between his bandwidth and mine, because any .com can become its own social media. The difference is advertising power. Donald Trump has the advertising power to call every media executive and to get his platform into our minds. I personally don't have that direct advertising power, but Farajii, do you? You know what I'm saying? Like, we can easily create these. Boom, boom. You understand?
It's called Black Star. I mean, seriously. It's called Black Star Network. It's called The Culture. It's called Black-owned media. And once you and I think you're so on point, B. Once you get that advertising power, and we're looking for advertisers and sponsors and supporters, but once you have that power, the sky's the limit. The sky is really the limit.
That's it. You know, so as long as we are able to understand the game and actually compete at the level that we need to compete at, so we can counteract these voices, because at the end of the day, nobody owns truth, and it is subjective. All right. And that is one of the quote unquote marketable factors of America, the fact that there are many truths that can be expressed all at one time. All right. So I'm here for his truth, but I'm also here to make sure that mine is heard and we can connect to the ones who also radiate on our vibration. That's what's important.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
I don't even know what to call this situation, but he and I know people often say, well, why do y'all keep talking about Kanye? Why do we bring Kanye? Kanye is still an influential figure in our culture, right? He's still an influential figure. I had a young lady, a sister on yesterday that said that she literally voted for Kanye for the 2020 election. No lie. I get it. You know what I'm saying? So Kanye, and she's a brilliant artist, a brilliant woman, brilliant creative. So I don't think we can just totally write off the things that Kanye West do. We can totally write off. There are certain celebrities that I think that we have to understand that their influence is bigger than just whatever they got, be bigger than how they became a celebrity. Their influence, Beyonce and Jay-Z, they represent so much more. People are influenced by them on so many different levels, right? Kanye West I feel like, is one of those individuals. And lately, he's been really airing his grievances on social media. Like, for example, he criticized his daughter's North TikTok account. He has gone on. Yesterday, he made some wild posts that were since deleted about his love for Kim and her, alleged boyfriend, Pete Davidson. But here's what the psychologists are saying about this, because there's a story about it. And one psychologist, or one person that studies the media, her name is Andrea Boner. She's a clinical psychologist, and she wrote this book called Detox Your Thoughts. And she said the reality is the media can be culpable in truly damaging people's lives. And when the media frames a breakdown as entertainment or a public spectacle, we make it acceptable to talk in this way about any human who is suffering.
Suffering, that's a big word. That's a big word. I don't think that a lot of us put into account that he is suffering emotionally. You lost your wife, you lost your family, in a sense lost, because they're not in the same home anymore, but he's hurting. He's expressing his hurt. Now, granted, I'm not saying the way he's expressing it is healthy. I believe I read an article where he bought the house across the street from Kim Kardashian.
That's
like, I get your efforts, Kanye, but it's giving a little bit crazy, just a little bit. It makes people fearful, but we just have to account he's hurting. He's not expressing in a healthy way, but he's hurting.
Well, if he's hurting, and this is the thing that I truly believe, Lise, that when you're going through a traumatic situation, and there are a couple of things that are very traumatic: loss of life, when there is a divorce. Those are the two most traumatic moments of a person's life if they experience those things, right? You got to know, and I think one of the big parts about being an adult is knowing when you can hold them and when you got to fold them. When you have a problem, or when you don't have a problem. If you can't admit that you don't have a problem, but you're going on social media, you just wilding out on every level, it speaks volumes about how you see yourself and where you are in your own growth.
I agree. I think with the whole Kanye situation, like taking it back a little bit, I don't think Kanye was that influential in the presidential election. More so that people was like, who I got him or him. Okay, just I'm gonna throw it away. It's a toss up. So I rather Kanye, a giraffe, whoever. But I'm just saying, at this point with Kanye's mental health, I think that people need to take mental health more seriously. It's not just Kanye, because I get a little bit weary when I hear psychologists kind of diagnosing him and talking when they have not even. He's not a patient of theirs. So we don't know if he's in a mania state. We don't know that. So for us to kind of like put that on Kanye, I think is unfair. But I think that he has such a big platform to be able to showcase that it's okay to have mental illness. Most people have some level of a mental disorder or they go through mental distress. And I think this would be a perfect time to really normalize it. I'm a podcaster. I couldn't tell you how many times I've talked about Kanye West in the Mexican wrestler mask. And I'm like, what is going on with Kanye? Is he okay? Somebody come and go get him. But I will say that we do need to take this, because even with Antonio Brown, who's he's hanging with, Antonio Brown got upset because people accused him of having mental health issue. And what did he say? He got on camera and said that I'm not crazy and all. I was like, so you offended a bunch of other people because you were offended by them saying you have a mental health issue, instead of making this a platform to say that it is okay if you have a mental health issue and to seek help. But I don't have that. So I feel like this is a perfect time for us as society, if we're saying we don't like labels and we're really growing, for us to take mental health issues seriously and understand what it means to be bipolar. What does that mean? I think a lot of people don't even know.
So let me ask you though, this question, Lise. Should we, in this article, in one article, the writer is saying, hey, this is a spectacle that we should not pay attention to. Should we not pay attention to what's going on to Kanye West? Should we not even have, deeper conversations about not just his mental health state, but the influence that he does make on the conversation around mental health? Should we just ignore him?
I don't know if we necessarily should ignore Kanye. Kanye is a hard person to ignore, because I think the more you ignore him, the bigger the gesture. Look at what's going on now. But I do think that this is a perfect time for us to start talking about mental health in general. Maybe not like every 15 seconds, like, oh, Kanye had another post. Yes, Kanye is going to keep having posts till he's done. So let's not go too far into that and go into the rabbit hole. But let's start talking about what is mental health. If you don't feel well, you need to go speak to somebody. It's okay. Like in the Black community, especially, because there's a struggle between getting help with a therapist in the church as opposed to putting those two together. There's a big
don't talk about the church,
struggle
Lee.
there.
Don't talk about the church, Lee.
Well, no, and I mean, look. I think that you have to have both a spiritual therapy as well as a psychological therapy, right? Because mental illness exists in both spaces. Like if you're not rooted in understanding of who the creator is, or you're not rooted in faith, I know, Iman, that will only add to the disruption, to the imbalance that's already present in your thinking.
Very true. Very true. It's like, what is there to look forward to? What is there to, I don't know, have a path to? And I'll say, even in my circle, to piggyback off what Lee said, Black people going to therapy, especially males, from just my experience with who I've been interacting with, is increasing. It's becoming this one of the most attractive things to say. I am currently in therapy. Awesome. To be able to acknowledge that there is something you need help with and actually seek it is awesome. And another issue with Kanye, though, I would hope that men don't think that type of behavior is okay or will get the attention of a woman the way that you want it to.
Come on now.
It's not buying the flowers. Okay, cool. Buy flowers, but popping up at the house. I've read an article saying that they said he was hiding in the bushes. It's given stalker, and just because he's Kanye,
it's domestic abuse.
It's domestic abuse. Just because
It's
it's not
domestic
physical,
violence.
It's domestic violence because it's not physical. It's still the same thing.
It's emotional.
You have to respect people's boundaries. If Kim right now doesn't want to communicate in a way or see you physically, besides the children, and Lord knows what that situation is, because he says she's trying to keep them away. Her people saying that's not the case. Who knows what picture he's trying to paint? But it's not okay for any male that is tuned in right now. That behavior is not okay. Just because Kanye West is doing it does not make it okay. And again, if you feel as though you're at that point, go to therapy. It's okay. It's okay to go to therapy. Go talk to somebody.
I'm glad that you brought that up, Iman. Go ahead, please.
No, but I think that it also brings to the point of when we're talking about mental health, and there are more Black men going to therapy now, which is great. But I think that we also need to be able to distinguish between Kanye's bad behavior and him having a mental health crisis, which we can't do. We don't know. We don't have the capacity to be able to understand, okay, this is Kanye going through mania, stages of mania. No, Kanye's in a depressive state now. Like, we don't know that. So I think that there has to be a place of having this conversation out loud. And no, we shouldn't necessarily be laughing at everything that Kanye West does. And no, this behavior isn't quote unquote normal. But I think you're right. She's right in the sense that we idolize certain celebrities. And I think that that's also something we need to look at, because even with Beyonce, I'm in the Beehive. I got a bronze membership. I got demoted. Don't ask me about it, but I do have it. But we tend to idolize people, and that is a problem, because Kanye is human and he makes mistakes, and we should be able to call them on the mistakes. And I think that a lot of times we don't empathize with Kim Kardashian because people don't like the Kardashians. So that's another reason why we're not seeing this behavior as problematic, because people don't like the Kardashians. So Kanye West, we do need to, I think, pay attention to what's going on, though.
Yeah. And I think that if Kanye West wasn't Ye, and he was just Kanye West, just some regular guy, and Kim was just Kim Kardashian or Kim Collins or whatever, right? We would really look at this situation through the lens of domestic violence, through the lens of a woman possibly being, in fear of losing her life because the nature of things, of the dynamics of how their relationship is, the up and down nature of it. Then we got to look at the fact that you have children involved. I heard that Kanye went to a game and then he was shown on the Jumbotron. They booed him. And then essentially his daughter had to, she was embarrassed. And so she covered her face. And I'm just saying, for the children's sake, in a scenario like this, it becomes all too real, because they didn't ask to be a part of this. They were brought into this. And then as a result, people are not being forgiven and saying, oh, that's just North Dad. It's like Kanye West. It's like you're passing on this dysfunction from one generation to the next. And you're seeing it out in full display. And so North has to grow up, and all of his children got to grow up probably constantly defending their dad. If
Kanye hasn't been Kanye since his mom passed away. Yeah, Kanye hasn't been.
Well, look, check this out. But has Kanye gone to therapy?
We don't know. I'm gonna say
we know everything else about him, but nobody. Yeah. If Kanye hasn't gone to therapy, and then you can't, again, I'm going back to this point of
his medicine, because they said his mom was the only person. His mom was one of the only people that could get him to take his medicine. That's another part that we're not talking about.
We did not know that.
I've heard that allegedly. She was one of the only
So what, you mean take medicine in 15 years or something, bro?
No, I'm sure he takes it, but he may not take it as often as he should. And, and this is all alleged. I don't know what he's on, or if this is just hearsay. I wasn't there. But allegedly, they're saying that the mom was one of the only people that could get him to do that, because he's probably had bipolar. He talks about it quite often. I think he's been diagnosed for.
He even named the album Bipolar or something like that, I believe, or he mentioned it. Yeah, he talks about it all the time.
So Kim is the wife. She probably doesn't have the same level of, hey,
compassion?
take this, or I think think she has compassion, but it's different. Right. You know, you're more likely to listen to mama than
Just
your wife.
Again, here's the thing. This is the part about it that I don't think that we can totally forget about. Kanye is a grown ass man.
He's very grown.
You see what I'm saying? They say his wealth is reportedly around $1 billion. I don't care about that. What I'm saying is, you're in a state where you can say, I have a problem. I need some help. Iman, you bring up the point of, you know, it's so refreshing to hear a black man say, I go to therapy. You know what I mean? I still got some past trauma that I'm working through. I go to therapy. It's so refreshing. What's stopping him? Like, in all of this time, like all of the stuff that this man has done, I always ask the question, like, bro, I review all the places. Your friends can't be your only sounding board, right? Your mom is not here. We don't know about your other family members outside of your married family, right? We don't know too much about them. But you do need to go to therapy. You do need to really work some shit out.
It's the lack of trust. He trusted his mother. I'm not gonna say who doesn't trust that mother, but he trusted his mother, had that great relationship with his mother. His wife, he may not have that same trust when it comes to mental illness or mental health. It may be embarrassing for him to admit and say, hey, I take this, or I have to take these meds every 2 days, or take this on the hour by the hour. It may be something he's embarrassed about. And let's especially think about how black men growing up, you don't cry, don't show these emotions. You got to be tough. You know, you'll be okay. You'll be okay. He may be stuck in that mindset where he has to show this aggression, this dominant aggression. And if he shows, or at least admits that, hey, I need help, it may turn into this, they may try to feminize Kanye. They may try to say he's too soft. It could be an image thing. It's a lot of variables. We don't know where he's at, but I'm going to say he's stuck at that aggressive, overly aggressive male impersonation that's unnecessary.
It is unnecessary, and it's going to be interesting. Like I pointed out, what that one psychologist said, that the media should be just as culpable. I think that since he does these things in public, we need to have public discussions about it. I'm not in the I don't do this media work to try to break people down. I think that we really need to have very in-depth, dived-in conversations about these things, right? Because they do affect people. We can't act like celebrity lives and their trials and tribulations don't influence us in some way, shape, or form, because we're all influenced by this stuff, right?
Correct.
And we're part of this larger culture that promotes that encourages people to be like these folks, or to handle life like these folks, or to see life like these folks. So, I mean, there are many opportunities that we can look at it. I just hope that this brother really gets some help. All of my stance has been on Kanye West for years. This man needs some help. He needs to, parents died. I get that. We've all grieved. Again, my mother had passed away, many others. But you gotta know to say, you know what? I need some help. It's going to be interesting, though, Lise. He got that new documentary on Netflix, Genius, right now. I haven't checked it out. I have to mentally get myself prepared to check it out. But some people, like the brother that shot the documentary, say that he's not too happy about how Netflix edited the piece. Like you may not see the full. You may not see Kanye as he wanted you to see Kanye, but I will check it out. I will definitely check it out.
Don't you think it's time to get wealthy? I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show on the Black Star Network focuses on the things your financial advisor or bank isn't telling you. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
All right, folks, welcome back to the culture here on the Black Star Network. We've been talking about sports, some of the big stories that have happened in the sports world. We've been chatting it up and really getting heated about this whole Sha'Carri Richardson situation. We got my culture crew, Eric P. Lee, B. Fly, and we're joined by Coach Butch McAdams, host of In and Out of Sports. And I know we got one more story that I want to get to, Coach, before we wrap this part of the conversation up. But I mean, to the point of this Sha'Carri situation, and I hear you, Brother Eric, like you posted, like the reason Sha'Carri was at the Olympic trials was because of her body of work. Right. I get that part. But I'm saying on a professional level, once she entered the Olympics, once she was eligible to compete in the Olympics, that put her on a whole different platform. That put her in a whole different stratosphere. And at that point, you got to understand the responsibility and the seriousness of that situation. And I'm you know, part of me is thinking like, and again, this is not where we should have the conversation. You said it, Eric, and I agree with you wholeheartedly. The wholeheartedly should be about the IOC saying, look, there's a difference. This is not a double standard. This is two different scenarios. The conversation really should be on the differences, the relationship that the IOC has with Russia and China, the differences of how they penalize Kamila Valieva versus Sha'Carri Richardson. But this was bound to happen. I said it was going to happen. The moment the pot calls the kettle black, people are going to start looking back at your situation and to start reanalyzing that situation. I knew this was going to happen. And B, to your point, it's not even about cannabis, but cannabis is on the list of prohibited substances that athletes can take. Cannabis, and depending on the quality of the cannabis, some of it can give you life, and some of them can slow your ass down too.
Listen,
you know it, I know it
would be.
Listen, we're gonna move forward. Listen.
Yeah.
we were already policing Sha'Carri, okay? We were already policing her before this drug test, okay? We had more articles about her weed. No, yes, check your blog history. There were more conversations about her hair and literally, you know, about her lashes, you know what I'm saying, than about her speed, you know what I'm saying? So this is the black conversation. This was. And so then once the cannabis came into play, then it was like this, see, I told you so narrative that came from internally, from our community. You know what I'm saying? And so you know the way our community, you know the way our elders, you know what I'm saying, will get on us. You know what I'm saying? Like we should know better than them. You know what I'm saying? We have to hold ourselves to a higher standard.
Well, what's wrong with that?
But listen, I'm saying because it creates this superhuman, supernatural, unbalanced idea that happens inside of our body, and it's not right. It creates superwoman, this Superman.
Hold on, B. This is a black woman on the international sporting stage, right?
Yes.
That represents. Yes. I mean, there's no doubt about it. She is unapologetically who she is, authentically. She represents. When you see Sha'Carri Richardson, you see black people, right? So, but my thing is, we should have a certain standard. Like, it's like, yo,
we're not a monolith. We're not a monolith. We don't all go to the same church.
I didn't say, look, I'm not tripping. Look, I do push back on people that talk about hair color and all of that stuff. I push back. That's cosmetic stuff. I'm talking about when you are on certain platforms like the Olympics, where the whole world knows that you represent a certain community of people, a certain nation of people, then guess what? You're damn right you need to be held to a higher standard. You represent us, especially in running. Shit, I mean, black folks in running.
see,
you should be winning every damn thing.
All I'm saying is that once the metaverse takes over your sports, this won't be an issue anymore. You know what I'm saying? Like this, in this element, I can't wait for the metaverse to just take over the entire sport network. because what's happening here, we're like the issues that we're discussing in sports, it's ridiculous. You know what I'm saying? Like, we don't have any black owners. We got 80% black people in the game, because at the end of the day, let's keep it real. Like, our world has depended on our strength, depended on our resiliency, depended on our speed, depended on our regenerative properties. And so whatever happens to us, whenever we fall, okay, we're always going to have droves of elders holding us like to this standard that is superhuman. Alrighty. And then our counterparts are looking at us like, how they should have made it anyway. That's why there's no ownership. You feel me? All of this entire conversation is ridiculous. And at the end of the day, like, she's 20 years old. At the end of the day, she's 21, you know? 21. And so, and that right there.
Who lost her mother and decided to indulge. I'm sorry, so maybe it's the pastor in me that's going to have this compassion for this child. But it's the passion and being a black man watching this young sister be, I think, now being unjustly re-crucified, because she admitted her wrong, she accepted the penalty, and simply brought up the fact that they're going to let this white 15-year-old child compete when she had a banned performance enhancing substance in her body. And why are we attacking Sha'Carri about that?
Why are we not putting this other little girl's parents in jail?
All right, go ahead, Coach. What's your take? Very quickly, Coach. Thank you.
Well, I would respectfully disagree. No one on this show has attacked her. Okay. And I think while you are showing compassion, we are, and when I say we, I'm speaking of the perspective that I'm taking, as well as Farajii, that we're showing compassion, that all we're saying is, whether you're 20 years old or you're 15, there are rules and standards that we all have to adhere to. And if we don't, then there are consequences. Okay. And then hopefully you learn from those consequences. That's all I'm saying. And
that's exactly what it is. And
that's it. And I'm coming.
I accept that. And
I'm coming from
the consequences.
Right. Yeah, I'm coming from a perspective of close to 40 years in coaching and in education. And, again, we talk about personal responsibility. And no, we're not robots, and we all make mistakes, but we also have to be aware there are consequences to our mistakes. But when we make a mistake, hopefully it is a learning process, And that's all I'm saying.
To add to, Coach, and I appreciate that, and I think that we need to add to that to understand the optics. Sha'Carri should understand the optics, the quote unquote court of public opinion, but the optics of how her story is being presented, how she's presenting herself. I'm not talking about physical presentation. I'm just saying the optics of, and I talked about this last week. The optics of, you are an older black woman, young black woman, and you kind of, you going in on this younger white girl, and it's like the optics. The optics aren't good. I mean, the optics is not good. You know what I'm saying?
The optics in this country ain't ever good.
Oh no, that's what I'm saying. But here's what I'm saying, B. We can't look, as a community organizer. I learned one thing, that you can't operate from a place of what it should be. You got to operate from a place of what it is.
So if she were white and went in on the Russian skater, do you think the optics would have been still bad?
No, it wouldn't have been as same. And that's the point. That's the point, brother. All right? That's the point. Like, black people, we got to act like we keep acting like we say that we want to be seen in a certain way, or we want to be treated in a certain way, but then in reality, we're in a state of denial that guess what? Every time we say something, our color is going to be the first thing that is heard.
So then we're still shackled.
Of course.
And we're still shackled by our own people. Like that is what is painfully clear, regardless on how I jump out of my shackles. As soon as my humanity comes into play, as soon as I do something that is illegal, then not only am I going to be held to the law, but now I'm going to be held to the hopscotch black law. Okay, that is even more schizophrenic than me dealing with the actual law, because the black law says that I'm supposed to embrace and own my superhumanness. So that so I can't even. I'm not gonna pee. I'm not gonna have feces. Like, there's so many levels to our black mask that we expect each other to keep on. And then when it falls off, we're like, oh, your black mask fell off. They're going to see you. They're going to judge you. They're going to judge you and all of your people as a result of it. Nope. Put your mask back on, girl. Put your mask back on and don't let them see you sweat ever. Like, come on. This is fibroids. This is stroke. This is stress. Like, this is too much. How long? And so it's like, we have to divest. Like, divest from the IOC, divest from the NFL, divest from all of these systems that are clearly only pimping us. Clearly.
Right. So,
well, no, I don't agree with that. And I respect your perspective, but I don't agree with that one bit. I think that, look, for so many years historically, the fight 50, 60 years ago wasn't black ownership. It was about being allowed to have a black man play in Major League Baseball or the NFL. Okay. And then once we got in, then it was, well, what about playing positions of leadership, positions of thinking, like quarterback, center, linebacker? And so, hey, these athletes are well trained. Everyone has a special gift that he or she profits off. So no, I don't look at it in terms of these professional athletes being in shackle, because they can play a sport like a LeBron James, make a lot of money, and take that money to the community, and the community benefits from it. Muhammad Ali, for example. But the young lady, we all should teach personal responsibility. Nobody is chastising her or persecuting her personally, but we all are taught personal responsibility. And if you don't want to adhere to the rules, then nobody is forcing you to participate. You don't have to do it. But if you choose to do it, then there are rules that we all have to adhere to.
Juwan Howard slaps the assistant coach. Keena, how long is that? Can we run that? Can we run that video very quickly?
Interesting finish here, 77. Oh, see, and they're going at it. Oh, yeah. Howard and Guard are not happy right now as the two of them continue to have words. We told you Juwan Howard was not happy about that timeout. And Juwan Howard just threw a right hand. And now we got a scrum. We have a scrum in Madison. Players are pushing and shoving. This is an ugly scene. This is an ugly scene. Oh, my God. Trying to get separated, and there's no doubt it all stems from the timeout by Greg Gard. Now, that's not an excuse for this, but that is what angered Juwan Howard, and it spilled over into this.
Coach, go ahead, sir. What's your take? We're gonna wrap it on this.
That was extremely ugly. And again, going back to personal responsibility, I don't care what transpired. Juwan Howard was wrong for throwing a punch. He was wrong for throwing a punch.
Yeah.
And you saw what the end result was when he throws a punch. Then the young athletes start in physical altercations with one another. He was wrong. Now, the opposing coach, what he did was so unsportsmanlike in terms of calling that timeout with 15 seconds to go. There's an unwritten rule that you don't do that. All right. And Juwan was walking by him. He put his hand on his arm to want to get him to stop and talk. And that's how it started. And if it had just been a verbal confrontation between the two coaches, then hey, no big deal. But when he throws that punch, he crossed the line. And in my opinion, it's a fireable offense. And it's the second time that he's had an altercation after the game with an opposing coach.
Yeah, wow. And I think that speaks to, Coach, just exactly what we're talking about in terms, and Brother Eric, talk in terms of just, again, the optics, the personal responsibility. What's your take on it, brother?
Yeah, it's unfortunate. He's supposed to be the leader, an example for his players.
Yeah,
and he's operating at the highest professional level in coaching. As a head coach of a major university, and so it's unfortunate that did take place.
I mean, it looks like unsportsmanlike conduct taken to a whole nother level.
Yeah, we'll have to see how it plays out, but it was unfortunate. Yeah.
It's really unfortunate. Juwan Howard, a legend in the game, and to see him smacking another coach, you don't see that often. You see that among players, but you don't really see coaches going at it like that. And it was an assistant coach too. I mean, he didn't even. I'm about to go petty. Like, he didn't even smack the head coach. It was an assistant coach. So
yeah, I think Coach Howard claimed that someone grabbed his arm, in an aggressive manner, but it still doesn't. You are still responsible for your own actions, and reactions.
No, yeah.
They had prior beef.
Yeah, I mean,
what I saw there was that happened. Whatever, that was beef from before. Yeah, that wasn't just on the court. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I could tell that was over a woman.
We're gonna end it like that. Hey, Coach Butch McAdams, thank you, sir.
My pleasure. Hey, everybody. Thank you. Be blessed.
Appreciate you, man.
Thank you, Coach. Thank you, Coach.
Appreciate it, Coach. All right, folks, welcome back to the show. Here on The Culture on the Black Star Network. We're going to make sure that we just getting some things straightened out here. So, folks, we've been talking about this latest situation around Kim Potter. This is the former Minnesota police officer that was that had killed Dante Wright. And we want to play for you just a little bit of what was said at today's sentencing hearing. Check this out.
Given all these considerations and having carefully considered the comments of the family and of both Dante Wright and the comments of Kimberly Potter, as well as the arguments of counsel, it is the sentence and judgment of this court that you shall be committed to the custody of the Commissioner of Corrections for a period of 24 months. You shall serve 2/3 of that time, or 16 months in prison, and 1/3 on supervised release, assuming no disciplinary offenses or conditional release violations. You have credit for 58 days already served. Restitution will be reserved. There'll be a fine of $1,000 and a surcharge of $78 to be taken out of prison wages or due within 180 days. You must provide a DNA sample. You may not use or possess any firearms, ammunition, or explosives. You have the right to appeal the conviction and sentence. If you are unable to pay the cost of an appeal, you may apply for leave to appeal at state expense by contacting the state public defender. You may be seated, Ms. Potter. I'd like to make a few parting comments. I recognize there will be those who disagree with this sentence, that I granted a significant downward departure does not in any way diminish Dante Wright's life. His life mattered. And to those who disagree and feel a longer prison sentence is appropriate, as difficult as it may be, please try to empathize with Ms. Potter's situation. As President Barack Obama once said, learning to stand in somebody else's shoes, to see through their eyes, that's how peace begins. And it's up to you to make that happen. Empathy is a quality of character that can change the world.
Folks, that was Judge Chu as she read the sentencing of Kim Potter, who killed Dante Wright while in the line of duty. Bakari Chikwea, I am disturbed by that one.
You have to excuse my body language because I was really having a moment. I didn't hear the latter invocation of the Barack Obama quote when I watched the segment of the ruling earlier. And it just invokes in me, again, so much frustration. And I am a bit speechless, so you may want to come back to me. But when I see the invocation of Black leaders, when there is something evidently done wrong to a Black person,
Yep.
It is a reminder that at every turn and point in history where there has been injustice done unto a Black individual or unto the Black community, it's been incumbent upon us to be understanding, to be empathetic, to put ourselves in someone else's shoes as if our shoes are not run down ragged and torn, and we don't need to feel what our shoes. It's not okay to feel what we're feeling. We have to extend our feelings to others. And it's, to the point I think Bakari made earlier, where clearly implied by the body language of Potter and her defense attorneys, I want to assume they anticipated this sort of ruling and sentencing, especially because they petitioned for a shorter prison sentence, and not even prison, and probation, because of her wonderful record and evident contrition, I think was the term they used, because she feels bad. That's enough that I can say for now.
Yeah.
It just leaves you speechless.
I would have to agree, Shaquaya. Bakari.
It's offensive.
It's thank you. It's very offensive.
It's offensive, right?
When Barack Obama did not say that
in that context.
In this context.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you can't. So one of our followers on Facebook, one of our watchers on Facebook, Janelle, she said, quoting Obama out of context is now as popular as quoting MLK Jr. Like, you can't do that. You can't talk about empathy and I know what the next step is. You know it, and I know it, Shaquaya and Bakari. You talk about empathy at the court. You talk about forgiveness as soon as she walks out of court.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't talk about that. I think Judge Chu was absolutely wrong in invoking that sentiment during this sentencing. That is absolutely wrong. That right there just speaks to bias.
Oh, there's no taste.
The irony of that, right? Just that not being empathetic, right? Because in order for you to use that, and please forgive my laughing and my smiling. This is not a joke to me, but it's one of those things that's so infuriating that on some level it's kind of like that's my reaction. Like you have to be joking, you know. Surely you jest. And so for me, it's. I think it's ironic for her to have used that quote, and I think what you were just mentioning, Farajii, in terms of using Martin Luther King's name essentially in vain, right? If we just want to spell it out, it's like you're using the name in vain. You're evoking the name in vain, and I think it's offensive. And I just don't think it's appropriate, right? That was not the context that that quote was said within. So, and I think that to use it, you could have used a quote about empathy from so many other people. I'm sure even if you wanted to just narrow it down to other presidents that may have said things about empathy, but to attempt to leverage Barack Obama's, it's offensive. It's offensive.
And you use, and we all know Barack Obama, whether you agree with his politics or not, he still holds a high, the Black community, we hold him and Michelle Obama in a high regard, right? So anything now, it's, back to what one of our watchers, Janelle, said, like, we put him on the pedestal. I remember seeing faces of his face next to Dr. King's face when he was running for office. So we have already put him on this high level, this high pedestal. Again, because we like him as a human being, not necessarily, you may not agree with his politics, but we like him and what he represents and what his family represents. All that to say, to have a to have that as part of the sentencing. I mean, just to ask people for empathy.
Mm-hmm.
Ask people for empathy. I'm blown away. Now look, if Dante Wright had gotten out the car and started whipping her ass, and he started beating on her real bad, and in the course of that, she was able to get the pistol and she fatally shoots him. Okay, I could be like, okay, I see that she was in a place of self-defense. But it was her and other police officers. That young man he was no threat. He was no threat. So why are you asking us for empathy? When he wasn't the threat, she was the threat. And then you asking us to be empathetic about her because she feels, quote unquote, hurt. She shed some tears in court.
Let's be clear.
I don't get it.
I want us to be clear on something. The psychological aspect of her using a Barack Obama quote is very clear who she's speaking to, right? She's not speaking to outraged citizens en masse generally. She knows she's speaking to individuals who would associate or empathize with the situation because of Dante's race. And the context upon which he was pulled over with from the first, just really looking at the bones of this situation, they pulled him over because he used the wrong lights in the wrong turn lane. They claimed his tags were expired, even though his mother still to this day says that the tags were not expired. And because he had something in his rearview mirror, an air freshener. When they pulled him over and ran his name, they learned that he had a weapons violation and I think a restraining order against him. The grounds upon which was enough to arrest him. Oftentimes when police officers are pulling over individuals of color, they expect, or by statistical context of how low level or nonviolent crimes are impended upon people of color, especially those in poverty. There's oftentimes an expectation that they can get somebody for something. And I'm not trying to create or speak around this shadowy sense of how individual officers act. This is the system.
Yeah.
And this situation and how it played out, notwithstanding your scenario, right, where there may have been a threat imposed upon police in which they can invoke the clause of all due means of needing to defend themselves, and the clause that gets them out of trouble all the time. You had a situation where she made a mistake. A training police officer who has been in authority for decades at this point made a mistake and pulled a gun instead of a taser. I don't personally believe that it may have been a mistake. I believe perhaps it was first nature to feel as if her life was in danger because Dante was Black, and she pulled a gun, but then realized immediately upon it happening, because of the ruling of the George Floyd case taking place that day, it had to be on the forefront of all officers' minds that day. Derek Chauvin was in court to have his sentence ruled that day. So when she pulled the trigger and realized that she shot him, her first and immediate concern was not for him, it was for her. And that, again, is why this is so disturbing. The judge interpreting the law to decrease the proposed sentencing so drastically, and then turning around and asking very explicitly the Black community to put ourselves in her shoes.
Come on, man.
And be understanding. It's not our job to. It was her job to know not to pull a gun. It's not our job to be understanding. And the more and more that it is an expectation for us to be understanding, the more we erupt at the seams in our communities of when something happens. And then when the Baltimore Freddie Grays, when these situations happen, when you see chaos and anger, it again is incumbent upon us to remain calm. It's a cycle of blasphemic justice. Injustice, should I say. It is a cycle of blasphemic injustice. It's sick. And Bakari.
I think to just like do the quick math, as they say, and to recognize that she wasn't even sentenced for 10% of the number of years that she could have received. And again, as I said, I don't know what that number of years would look like, because I don't think that there's
a well in the 20s though, right? It was at least 20.
But the max would have been, it was 15 for first degree and 6 to 8.5. So even if we go on the lower end and just use 6 years as opposed to 8.5, you're talking about a minimum then in that case of 21 years. And she got 2. So we're not even at 2 years and 2 months. We're at literally 9, maybe 9.5%, not even 10% of the years that she could have received. So it's a slap in the face. And I'm cautious to use the word hope, but I think that if we can hope for anything productive to come out of these types of conversations that we are repeatedly inundated with, one is to be able to take refuge and to take a step away from the amount of trauma that we are ingesting by looking at not only just the killings, but also the sort of replay, the emotional trauma and psychological trauma that we had to experience by sitting through, and listening to the sentences.
Yeah.
There's also how do we challenge ourselves more within our own communities? And I don't want to go back to the restorative justice piece, but it does also in a lot of ways look like, what does that look like for us to determine what that justice is going to look like on the front end? So,
and I think that when you break it down like that, Bakari, and when you're talking about the number of years that she could have potentially gotten, and I think that we need to really look at that. The number of years she could have potentially got versus the one that she actually did get.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that just leaves a more bitter taste in your mouth. It then is not just a slap in the face; it's a kick in the gut. It's almost as if that she really didn't get penalized at all. You know what I mean? For something, when you're talking about 20-something years. Say it again.
I said, especially when a portion of that is going to be spent on probation. And I don't want to minimize the experience of probation, right? But then there's also in the article, right, it also shares that she's also not within the general prison population. And I don't want to wish harm upon anyone, but even to know that this person is outside of the typical or the standard prison experience, right? That so many other, especially Black and brown women, if they were in the same position, probably would find themselves within, right? That she still is the exception to exception to the exception to the exception in so many ways.
Yeah, and that's the thing. And then, our watchers are bringing up the case of Amber Geiger, who mistakenly thought that someone was in her apartment because she didn't remember her damn apartment where she lived, and she wound up shooting and killing Botham Jean, and how the judge extended a high level of biased compassion by walking off the judge's platform and giving her a hug and all of that. And it's just this again, that's what this moment reeks of. It reeks of a high level of bias that should lead to Judge Chu just getting disbarred. I mean, seriously. Like,
I'm
really case.
So now what I'm interested in doing just on a personal level, to appease my interest in knowing the judicial record of Judge Chu. I want to go look at her average sentencing for similar crimes, for first degree and second degree manslaughter, where if there are other instances, I'm sure not, whether they're infamous or not, involving law enforcement officers and not involving law enforcement officers. I'm also interested in knowing what her sentencing in average looks for non-violent crimes for individuals of color, because now I want to get to the core of what the basis of her reasoning may be on a personal level, what her record shows. I'm thinking of Pamela Moses, and I'll be clear, I don't like to often just throw out different cases that are not necessarily connected by crime type or by state jurisdiction, because we know laws vary in each state and each case is different by its terms. But I mean, on the face of just thinking about the judicial system, I'm thinking of Pamela Moses right now, who last month was sentenced to 6 years in prison for trying to vote because he was a felon and her probation officer told her she could, walked her through the steps, and she got 6 years in prison.
And she didn't kill nobody.
These situations just, again, exasperate. It is an exasperating evidence of, and that's not a term, but it exasperates the sick case of the judicial system. It is deafening. It is numbing. It is something worthy of us really trying to consider what the strategy is for influencing and creating really sustainable pipelines into law and legal and judicial systems and law enforcement systems for people of color. I think I oftentimes just hold myself accountable to wanting to play more of a role in where these things are taking place, and wanting to become more informed about the situational aspects of individuals who are running for judicial offices. Oftentimes, most people don't pay attention to the judges on their ballots when it comes to local and state elections. And I hope that this is a reminder for people that you absolutely have to pay attention to who's sitting on the bench, right? It matters whether it's a famous case or whether it's Paul down the street. The background of these individuals matter so significantly to what happens when bad goes wrong, when things go wrong, when bad happens.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie. We'll laugh together, cry together, pull ourselves together, and cheer each other on. So join me for new shows each Tuesday on Black Star Network, A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
Woo!
All right, folks, let's talk about Dave Chappelle. Well, after a very controversial and highly criticized, highly acclaimed special, The Closer, the comic is back at Netflix. Even though people have said they should have canceled Dave Chappelle, Netflix decided not only will we not cancel him, we will keep endorsing all that he has to offer. Dave Chappelle, it was announced just last Friday, the release of 4 upcoming comedy specials where Dave Chappelle will sign on to be the executive producer and host of these comedy specials. It's going to be dubbed Chappelle's Home Team. The first to be featured is Earthquake. Y'all know who Earthquake is. Earthquake, the comedian. His special will be called Earthquake Legendary, which premieres on February the 28th. Another special will spotlight Donnell Rawlings, who was a part of the Chappelle Show. His the date has still yet to be determined, but one similarity shared by all of these comics is that they've been in the game for at least 30 years. Now, Dave has come out to say, quote, "I've been doing this a long time, and comedians like Quake and Donnell are not only friends, but have inspired my own comedy. Anyone in the comedy community knows these names and knows their time to shine is long overdue. I am proud to be a part of this moment." Now, the Netflix CEO, Ted Sarandos, he defended the Closer special amid all of the criticism, but then he later admitted that he screwed up. However, he still went back to supporting the program as, quote, being consistent with our comedy offerings. It's consistent with Dave Chappelle's comedy brand, and this is one of those times when there's something on Netflix that you're not going to like. The comics Dave Chappelle will continue to work with Netflix in that capacity, and he will also serve as the host for Netflix's Los Angeles-based comedy festival, Netflix is a Joke, which gets underway on April the 28th. Ladies, I want to bring back my culture crew. You can't cancel Dave Chappelle when he bringing in money for Netflix.
True.
Man,
People know that he had some, some people say, oh man, he's transphobic and all of that. But at the end of the day, hey, as Ted Sarandos said, this is just one of those times where you're just not going to like Netflix.
I think people who were against the whole cancel culture, trying to cancel Dave Chappelle, of course, social media, Black Twitter and whatnot, there were a group that was saying, hey, we understand, y'all feel how y'all feel, but we're not canceling Dave Chappelle. And I think, which y'all spoke to me about last week, the optics, because you have people who said, no, we stop right here with this whole being sensitive about the LGBTQ community. We're not standing behind it. We behind Dave Chappelle. I think that pushed their narrative as well to convince them, all right, let's go ahead and try to kind of support the brother.
Now look, and we all know that Dave Chappelle, like his comedy is let me just say this. Dave Chappelle's comedy has matured so much. Because I've watched Dave Chappelle. I even saw him live one time. But his comedy has matured so much. It's like you gotta be of a certain mindset to go to see Dave Chappelle. I went to see we saw Marlon Wayans' comedy special. Fell asleep. I think it was on Netflix.
It just wasn't funny. No,
it just wasn't funny. Like it wasn't. It didn't even get to the core of me, like to be funny.
No, it wasn't funny.
It just wasn't funny. But I think it's interesting, Nira, that as much as people want to say, that comedy or comedians have what they call a comedic license to speak on things, that when comedians do say some things that people don't like, people want to revoke their license.
Yeah, for me, there's only one topic that's off limits, and you know what that is, rape. That's the only thing that to me is not funny. Nobody got mad at Dave Chappelle when he was Clayton Bigsby and he made fun of the Ku Klux Klan and Black people and racism, or when he used the N-word. So you know what? This is Dave Chappelle. I support him personally. I thought The Closer was funny, but I do think that he'll be a little bit more sensitive moving forward. I'm hoping that he'll be a little bit more sensitive to that community moving forward. I personally didn't get the vibes that he was being transphobic, and I do think that him coming out and trying his best to clear the air and saying like, I'm not transphobic. I personally just kind of hope that we get to a place within our culture that people can like authentically say like, hey, I'm not transphobic, and we actually believe them, versus people coming out saying like, I'm not transphobic, and then people are like, no, you are, and he's like, but I'm not. I'm just a comedian. I just wanted to make people laugh. It wasn't to be offensive. I don't think that Chappelle was ever trying to be offensive. I think that he is a creator and he uses his creative license to make people laugh, and he uses social social issues, because like as you said, you have to grow as you get older. Your content is going to change, so he does talk about more social issues than just for the sake of trying to make people laugh.
Yeah, I definitely think so. Leash, what's your take on this?
So my take is, honestly, I think Killing Me Softly was his best special yet. I don't think, if I'm being honest, and I am a comedy girl, I watch stand-up through and through. I do not think his last 3 specials were that funny. I honestly think he was trying to shock people. And the reason why he was doing that is because people listen. If you are going to say something that's going to get people intrigued, they're more likely to listen to what you have to say. And I feel like that's what Dave Chappelle was doing here. But I do think that money is the root. This is the Joe Rogan effect. If you can get 20 million listeners every week, you can say whatever you want. This is the same thing with Dave Chappelle and Netflix. We're not going to pretend like he didn't talk about rape. He has. We're not going to pretend like he doesn't talk about women. He has. And Dave is in my top 10 of best comics of all time. But I'm not going to pretend like, yeah, this has offended somebody, and people would have the right to be offended. Now, what you should do is, if you're offended, I need everybody come.
You're real close. You're real close. You're real close.
If something offends you, turn it off. Like,
That's it.
close the laptop. Don't watch it, because that has more impact than anything. If you don't watch his special, they will not keep bringing him back. But if you keep watching it and then posting about it, they don't care if the engagement is mad. They care that he has engagement. They're gonna keep paying him. So that's what you have to do. That's all I'm saying. I'm gonna step.
All I'm saying is that I think it's just interesting that, comedians, they go across the line all the time. I'm sure if there was a quote unquote cancel culture when Richard Pryor was around, we probably wouldn't have heard of Richard Pryor.
Ooh, yeah, no.
Oh my gosh.
If there was a cancel culture when Eddie Murphy,
go back to Eddie Murphy Raw,
when Eddie Murphy Raw was out, when the whole, Eddie, him making fun of African women. I mean, seriously, like,
what do we do? Like, Farajii, like, so we're just gonna just take, like, because everyone is so sensitive now, we don't even have comedy anymore. Like, I don't know. I just feel like everything has become like, we have to place things where they are. Some things are meant to make us laugh. Some things are meant to enlighten us. Some things are meant to educate us. It's like, in those moments, can we laugh? But I agree with Lise. Oh my God, wholeheartedly. Why are y'all telling us to cancel this man? If you don't like him, don't watch it. The same way, if I don't like a genre of a movie, I'm not going to watch it. If I don't like a certain singer, I'm not going to listen to their music. It's that simple. Just remove your support.
Yeah.
Like, what is and just because Elise did bring up something about Dave Chappelle making fun of rape, I just want to throw this out there. I have not seen all of Dave Chappelle's work, so I have not personally seen him make fun of rape. So if I did, that would have definitely been a huge issue for me, because again, that's my huge issue with Just Hilarious. And you already know we got into it on social media. She called me a bitch on social media.
You are lying.
Because I called her out for making fun of rape, and it was a big issue for me. She literally, her description of rape was exactly what happened to me. And when many of us survivors called her out on it, she made another video making fun of rape victims. And I wrote an article about it, and she called me a B for it. Because I don't take that. That's not. I'm a survivor, and I'm multiple. I've been raped more than one time. I don't take that shit as a joke. There's no instances for me where making fun of rape is funny. Period.
Yeah, absolutely not. Absolutely not. And I think, and I would agree with you there, that there are certain topics and contents that should be off limits. And I think that we do look, comedians are not stupid people. They're not just, goof offs. These are people who think, who understand the culture, who understand, the boundaries, who understand, the climate that we're in. They're not stupid people at all. They're actually some of the smartest people that you probably will ever come across. But the fact is that there is a way to make people laugh without making people feel less than about themselves. And I think that's just the fine line that comedians have to walk in 2022. But we will see how Dave Chappelle handles this whole situation as he brings his friends up for Chappelle's home team for Netflix. And you know what? There's no report on how much money he's going to make for these 4 comedy specials, but just know he'll be laughing all the way to the bank.
Can I say this though? But I will say that Dave Chappelle does a really good job of bringing up comedians. So he is bringing people with him. A lot of comics don't do that. If you know anything about the comic circuit, they don't want you to be funnier than them. So the headliner will pull people off. I know this has happened to comedians. They will pull them off if you are funnier than them. Dave is not like that. And he's bringing up other Black comedians that came before him but didn't get the recognition. So I definitely give him his props there. And I think people should at least give Earthquake is hilarious. Please, at least if you're going to support, not just with Dave Chappelle, but look at, he's supporting another Black man, somebody else's family. Give him a chance and watch this special, because it's not just about Dave Chappelle.
All right, folks, it's time for us to tell you what the trends post and who's doing the most. All right, let me just preference this first story about trends post and who's doing the most. This person I have a great respect for. I mean, he's been a part of the hip hop community for at least 20 years. But he is definitely doing the most in a good way. Snoop Dogg, your old Eric, your former LA resident. I know you were living up in the same neighborhood with Snoop back in the day. Snoop Dogg has decided to go back home, and what do I mean? He has went and bought Death Row Records, the label that has taken him and put him on the map. So he has decided to buy the brand of Death Row Records. And of course, Death Row, founded in 1992 by Suge Knight, and Dr. Dre and DOC and another gentleman by the name of Dick Griffey. So Death Row, back in the day, you remember in the 90s and probably early 2000s, like Death Row was a force to be reckoned with when it comes to West Coast hip hop. And under Suge Knight, infamous. They became infamous. But Snoop Dogg has decided that he wanted to buy the record company. He wanted to buy this brand. And as a result, along with him buying the brand, he's putting out a new album called BODR, Back on Death Row. And he's also looking to offer NFTs, which is something that's like a new style of art currency right now. So I want to bring in my culture crew, Nira Muhammad, and of course, big brother Eric Lee. Nira, when you heard about Snoop Dogg doing this buyback of Death Row, and he's offering like NFTs, you know, for $5,000.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really dope. I think it's very inspirational to see him go back to his roots, and obviously just to see Snoop get any type of satisfaction. He's like an uncle to all of us. Like, we all have grown up with Snoop. We love him, whether he's acting or making music. You love to see him doing good. So I'm just really excited for him, and I'm really excited to check out his new album. I just think it's super, super inspirational. So big ups to Snoop.
Absolutely. He bought it. He bought Death Row, brother Eric, and now he's looking to make some changes. He says he's excited about it. He's happy to be in a position to really, you know, take Death Row to a different level. Is it good for the culture?
Absolutely. I mean, you've seen Snoop mature over the years, and you know, the beginnings in hip hop at Death Row to where he is now, where he's, you know, inviting people to watch the Super Bowl. I mean, he is welcoming the host for welcoming people to the Super Bowl. So his evolution to the point that he is now, I think is going to be wonderful for Death Row Records. And
absolutely,
I just want to know, is he still coaching football? You know,
he's always coaching football.
You know, so.
He's still coaching football. And matter of fact, it's so cool because I mean, on Super Bowl on Sunday, he's performing along with Dr. Dre, Mary J. Blige, Eminem, and Kendrick Lamar. They all going to rock SoFi Stadium. I'm gonna watch that. I'm
so excited. I'm
gonna watch the joint. I'm gonna watch it. I'm going to definitely watch it.
Hey, all right, are you rooting for anybody? Who are you rooting for?
I guess I gotta go with the Rams.
I'm going with the LA Rams on this one. I ain't like the Bengals. I don't like the Bengals. They've always been showstoppers for the Ravens.
Listen, not only that, they took Brady out, so I mean they gotta win at this point.
We're
like
going
you
for
took
the
Brady
Rams.
out, you gotta win it.
You gotta go for the Rams. All right. All right. So, folks, speaking of Super Bowl Sunday, you can watch the big game, but then there's a 90s throwback that is taking a new twist and turn. Did you know that the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air will be back on the air, but in a very different way? Check this out.
This time we're trying to make you forget who you are and where you came from. Don't let it do that.
Damn! Jeffrey Thompson, house manager.
Will! Oh, Viv!
10 years is a long time.
Let me show you around.
Where them dimes at?
Hillary!
Will! Let's go find you something fit for a prince.
What do you think?
I made you look.
Yo, Uncle Phil! I'm glad you're safe. We'll talk later.
Cousin Will!
Yo! Is this really baby Ashley?
You're a long way from home, Mom. Oh, Tim. How you been? You know, thriving. I hope one day we can talk about why you're really here. Do you know why I'm here from Philly?
Scrap on the bull court. Got nasty.
Who threw that? Was it you?
Now some bad man from Philly, you want him to deal with you.
Why move mountains to get you here? So here's the story. Came to Bel Air for a better education. Simple. Be patient. Give this a real chance.
We have a different set of rules here, okay? If you want to do well, just keep your head down and follow my lead.
Whoa, whoa. Man, you know I'm a rep West Philly wherever I go. Yo, King, what's up, man? No love. Look around. These are my people.
What? From now on, steer clear. Welcome to Bel Air.
What the hell is my life?
Yo, chill out, bro.
Maybe Will just isn't cut out for this. Why are we working so hard to save a boy who doesn't want to be safe?
Because we owe it to him.
A real man takes responsibility for his actions. A real man knows when to let go of his pride and make the most out of a second chance.
Be the Will who charmed West Philly with his talent and swag.
Let the music diffuse all attention. Get out my face, you people so phony.
There's no going back.
I made you look. I'm king of the town.
Wow.
I'm beyond excited for Farajii. That's one of my favorite shows of all time. It's gonna be different because Uncle Phil looks a lot different. But I'm so excited. I love this new spin on it. This is like, it's so perfect. It like matches the times. I think the original was perfect for the 90s, but I'm really, really excited about seeing this updated new version. The cast looks amazing. I'm loving the accents. I'm just loving everything. I can't wait. I'm ready. I'm so ready.
Eric, Fresh Prince of Bel-Air is now just Bel-Air.
Hey,
what's your take, sir?
The other side of the coin. It's the other side of the coin. We're gonna see the real story.
I love it. I'm all here for it. We're gonna do our best to try to get some of the folks behind this rendition, this remix of our beloved sitcom. But to see Will Smith's name on this, to see so many dynamic young actors, new faces, I love it. I cannot wait, folks. It's dropping on Super Bowl Sunday on Peacock. I'm telling you,
That's
I'm
amazing.
excited. I am
So
pumped.
glad I renewed my Peacock subscription.
Right.
Yes.
I'm just gonna say, hey, this is a show that I think we definitely it's going to be so good for the culture in so many ways. And I love the representation of Black excellence and Black power and Black wealth in this show. It's going to be phenomenal. All right, folks, welcome back to the show. Let me bring my culture crew back in here, Shaquaya McKenzie and Bakari Jones. First and foremost, ladies, y'all were a little bit too excited to talk about housing.
Well, in my mind, Farajii, I'm going to be a lawyer, a real estate developer,
right,
and a leader in the tech industry. I've got my mind on all these things all the time. So whenever I hear someone who's really deep in stock in the work, it's exciting. And I mean, I can't wait to learn about more of what she's doing through her book and hopefully through a personal connection.
Absolutely. Absolutely. No, y'all were fantastic. And I appreciate the questions and the sentiment. So that is what's up. Now, as we wrap up the show for today and for the week, I wanted to bring some things to light, speaking about the beauty and the power of the Black woman. If you did not know, folks, I like to call this segment Telling Our Story, because I think, Bakari, it's important that we tell our story. Now, there is a new biopic that is going to be airing very soon, featuring the beautiful one and only Viola Davis as FLOTUS. I'm not talking about Jill Biden. I'm talking about the one and only Michelle Obama. Check out this new picture, this new film.
How do you really feel about being First Lady?
In 4 years, I don't want to look back and think, what did I become living in that house?
It is my great honor to introduce to you the First Lady of the United States. Oh, still got it.
Never lost it.
The First Lady has to be a special kind of woman.
I can't have you backseat driving.
They want to turn me into a Black Martha Stewart? I will pick my team, choose my causes, understood?
You knew what you were getting into.
You kept your political dreams a secret from me. I'll be here for you. But I am going to be myself.
My hands are tied.
Don't push me off. I am your wife, not one of your girlfriends. You are the husband of a wife who has a mind and a life of her own. They think I should keep my mouth shut.
This is your chance to make history.
I'm just terrified of my girls.
I couldn't bear to watch you destroy yourself.
I have done everything I was supposed to do!
The world is always going to judge us.
They can kick me out, but they can't make me somebody I'm not.
So
I'm excited to watch.
I'm extremely excited to watch.
I'm
I think that
Viola
Viola Davis. Oh yeah, huge Viola fan. And I was a little nervous about what her interpretation and the way she'd come off in terms of, how we kind of castigate people. I don't know. I'm gonna speak for myself. Once people play a certain role, I kind of always see them in that role unless they shatter it. And something else they're given. And I can see her playing Michelle so authentically in that trailer. I mean, it's
rhythms, all of that. It's like to play someone who is still alive currently. I feel like that's a whole nother level just in and of itself. So I'm excited to watch. I think that I'm also looking forward to just like hearing all the like behind the scenes stuff that she has to share her interviews.
Michelle had to be there, right? Like, I'm assuming Michelle had to be coaching her through this role.
I imagine. And then I'm like, how much does she? I know she's the type of actor in general who, I'm sure she's like deep in her study. She's probably looking into all the footage, all of the behind the scenes context about Michelle. This is all interesting. I'm looking forward to it. This is April. It was Women's History Month, but April will cut it. So.
Yeah, this is great. I anticipate, I hope I'm not being biased in saying this. I anticipate that all of the women will play their roles well or have played their roles well, in so much that you know how some people can stick out. I don't want to say Viola's going to stick out, because I believe Michelle Pfeiffer, they all look like they did an amazing job. But because of the contemporary nature of our FLOTUS, I think this is going to be great.
Great. I mean, first and foremost, I have to be honest with you. I never thought that I would see Viola Davis play Michelle Obama. I just never thought, like, physically, you just don't think, oh, well. But then when I saw this, I was like, ooh,
yeah,
okay. Now, of course, this film is through the lens of all of the, first ladies of different presidents, and talking about their ups and downs, their achievements, and at the same time, some of the tragedies. But I think it's a powerful. I think this is going to be a very powerful thing, and it's interesting that we have not seen Michelle Obama, and I know we talk about it, but I don't think we've really seen it on screen to put Michelle Obama in the context as those previous first ladies. You know what I'm saying? Like Michelle Obama to us, I mean, we grew up watching her going into office, so we have a different lens that we see her through. We see Barack different, but when you stack her up against, okay, Miss Betty Ford, Nancy Reagan, or the wife of Eleanor Roosevelt, when you start to put her in that context, it brings. It says a lot more. It says a lot more. Bakari, what's your take on that?
Farajii, both of us are excited. Are we having a watch party on the channel?
What's going on?
I mean, I'm excited to watch. I have a lot of respect for Michelle Obama. For me, I love food. I mean, I know we all care about food to some extent. We need it to survive, but I think in terms of her initiatives that are around the things specifically that Black and brown people have immediate access to, which is food and how we move our bodies. Those are the things that I was like super excited about as it relates to her, just her legacy that she's leaving behind. So I'm excited to watch and engage and see how this contributes to, some of the positive light that's shed on Michelle Obama. She still is talked about because of the color of her skin, but she's a brilliant woman who happens to also be the FLOTUS. So I forever FLOTUS, I'll say. So
I'll forever FLOTUS. I'll forever FLOTUS. I remember watching her, Shaquaya. She did the documentary Becoming, based upon her book, when her book came out, and just seeing how she moved, how she thought. You know what I mean? Just seeing parts of her. You know what I mean? Like I feel like she's probably more popular than Barack.
No question.
You said.
No question, right? Because she didn't have to be in such a contentious role, to be fair, and also because of her evolving grace. I think whether you are a person of color, a girl of color, a woman of color, or a man of color, or aside from that, just an American, you were proud of a woman that held herself with strength, with grace, with someone who was discernibly them own selves. She didn't seem like she ever compromised in who she was. Or compromise in how she wanted to be represented. And that clearly was a part of the trailer there. And so she is very well liked, right? Like her approval ratings had, I think at one point, beat out any president in any history and any first lady in history. And that just speaks to who she is, right? But, our forever FLOTUS. But I love what you said about how I don't think there had ever been, I mean, I'm sure there have been documentaries and probably some featured media where there was an anthology of stories told of first ladies, but never this riveting. It doesn't seem, I don't know if there's ever been any other visual version of what they're doing now. But what I love about that is the opportunity that we have to see the intersection of challenge and perplexity that exists in the unfolding of the becoming of the first woman. It's not just the first lady, right? Because it's a role. It's temporal. It's a chasm in time, but it's the evolution of the person prior to them being in that seat in office, and then thinking about their legacy and the road ahead and what they like to do. And clearly, with the work that Michelle and Barack continue to do, she was, it seems, was very intentional and mindful of that. And so I'm interested in seeing how they captured that in the biopic.
Yeah, I'm happy that Barack plays kind of a supporting role. You know what I mean? I like the whole take of the film. I can't wait to see it, folks. It's going to be streaming on Showtime in April. This was their first look. You got to see it here on the Black Star Network, and it's going to be more than interesting. And I think that we should, once it comes out, I think we should really have some much deeper conversations about the power of the woman in the White House, right? Because a lot of, like you mentioned, Bakari, we and Shaquia, that both, you know, a lot of times we say it's just a role, but they are actually determining and dictating policy, especially for children, you know, and that's something that we have to keep in mind. Like the first lady is almost like the first mother of the country. Mm-hmm. So, you know, when you're dictating policy, from whether it's health and wellness, whether you're talking about, you know, literacy, whether you're talking about drugs and crime, you're dictating policy. And that is a very, very pivotal role. But what I see with Michelle that I would be interested to see and play out in this film is that Michelle was Barack's partner. That was like his unofficial, official partner. That was his metric of whether he should move forward or he should stay back from an issue. I know it was. Smart. I absolutely know it was, because that's your wife, man. That's your wife. So, you know, she is a capable woman, a very brilliant woman, and you know we'll try to bring her on to the culture one day.
Yeah, make sure it's this episode.
Right.
So we'll try to bring her to the culture one day.
Nara won't let you leave her out of it, so bring Nara on. We'll make it
right.